Now, if you look something like me and ever find yourself staring at a map of Africa, you might come to the incredible and groundbreaking realization that Egypt is in Africa.
How dare you!
No! Ancient Egypt has nothing to do with Black Africa and never will, you Afrocentrists! There's that word again, Afrocentrist. And with it, the usual meltdown you will see in the back alleys of Quora, Reddit, Twitter, and even YouTube. In these places, you'll find the most bitter, most profoundly lonely and unhappy people using that word, Afrocentrist. They use it to put down anybody who claims black people have actually achieved more in 6,000 years of human history than being slaves. But have Afrocentrists always been people like me, trying to reclaim back the chunks of world history that actually belong to black people and have been stolen and hoarded away from us, as if that could ever be a bad thing? Who actually were the first Afrocentrists, and what did they have to say for who the ancient Egyptians properly were? The answer might surprise many of you, because this video will be the first in a series which explores that very question. And seeing as Trillblack always goes big, we'll begin the series with a bang. I mean, we're going big, really big, because the first person you could tar with the brush of Afrocentrism is the biggest person you could possibly tar with that brush. Yes, it's the big God himself. There are a series of prophecies in the Hebrew Bible, what the Jews today call the Torah. These prophecies speak of God's anger with the Egyptian nation, but in these prophecies you'll also find the truth about who the ancient Egyptians were. In the book of Ezekiel chapter 29 verses 13 and 14, Yahweh says this: "Yet thus saith the Lord God, at the end of 40 years will I gather the Egyptians from the people whither they were scattered, and I will bring again the captivity of Egypt, and will cause them to return into the land of Pathros, into the land of their habitation, and they shall be there a base kingdom." Where's the big reveal? How does this prove God was on the side of the arguments that ancient Egypt was a black civilization? If you're asking that, let me help you a little. How? By giving you a modern translation. See if you can't spot it then. Here's the New International Version of Ezekiel 29, 13 and 14. "Yet this is what the sovereign Lord says: at the end of 40 years I will gather the Egyptians from the nations where they were scattered. I will bring them back from captivity and return them to Upper Egypt, the land of their ancestry. There they will be a lowly kingdom." And there you have it. While Egyptologists right up until today have claimed that Egypt has its origins and founding influences in the Near East or the Fertile Crescent, God says he is going to return the Egyptians to the land of their, quote, habitation, or as the NIV puts it, the land of their ancestry, or as the American Standard Version puts it, the land of their birth. Other versions, like the ESV, have the word as origin. And just where does God say this is? On the coasts of Egypt, where Egypt might have received its civilization building technologies and knowledge from lighter skinned peoples from the Mediterranean? No. Or in Mesopotamia? No. Or in Turkey, where the Hittite Empire had its seat? Nope. God says the origin of the ancient Egyptians is a place called Pathros. What and where is this Pathros? Let me show you. Pathros is a Hebrew word derived from the Egyptian word patruzi, which means the southlands. And rather than translate that word, the King James Version in Ezekiel 29 keeps it. But if it were to have translated it, it might have said Upper Egypt, like many other versions do. And Upper Egypt, like the word Pathros suggests, is right here, in the space that today on a map lies in the deep south of Egypt and crossed over in ancient times into what we now know as the Sudan, where you will find the ancient Egyptian temple of Amun at Jebel Barka, and further south the temple of Soleb. This is also the region that was first referred to as Nubia by the Romans. This is huge. Why? Simply because the Bible, one of the most ancient sources of history and literature we have available to us today, says the Egyptians had their origin as a people in a part of the world the bulk of which today is widely accepted as Black Africa. Whenever ancient texts are consulted, time and time again, as we will see in this series, they place ancient Egypt firmly within Africa, geographically, culturally, and racially. Why then does modern Egyptology do the most it can to remove Egypt out of Africa and place it anywhere else but there? It's almost like there's a bias against Africans that still exists, even in supposedly woke modern academia. Nah, couldn't be. But wait, what's this? Methinks there's more in the Bible. In Ezekiel 30, Ezekiel gets another message direct from God saying, "The sword shall come upon Egypt and great pain in Ethiopia." Okay, Ethiopia? What have they got to do with anything? Rewind and go to Isaiah 20, and there you find verses in which Yahweh takes his time to really dish it out to Egypt. "So shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoners and the Ethiopians captives. And they shall be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia, their expectation, and of Egypt, their glory." It doesn't take a genius to see the pattern here. Almost every time great cataclysmic prophecies are made against Egypt in Ezekiel and Isaiah, guess who isn't far behind? That's right, Ethiopia or Kush. Places that nobody today can deny is Black Africa. Now, how far into Africa do you want to get before you admit ancient Egypt was a Black African civilization? Or at least was firmly rooted in Black African civilization? Do we just keep going till we reach South Africa, or maybe even round the Cape of Good Hope? In case you're not convinced of anthropology as done by the Bible, I'm happy to inform you that modern Egyptology has been dragged kicking and screaming to accept what the Bible in Ezekiel has said all along. How? Well, before Egypt was a politically unified state, archaeological discoveries have revealed that everything that we stereotypically call ancient Egypt today, the pharaohs, the pyramids, the temples, their fashion and religion, comes from pre-pharaonic civilizations known as the Badari and Nakada civilizations. What are these? We'll let Wikipedia answer. Its entry on the topic says this: in Upper Egypt, the pre-dynastic Badari culture was followed by the Nakada culture, closely related to the Nubian and other tropical African populations, and the proto-dynastic kings emerged from the Nakada region. Excavations at Upper Egypt found archaeological evidence of ritual masks similar to those used further south of Egypt, and obsidian linked to Ethiopian quarry sites. And before there's any smug disregard of my use of Wikipedia here, Wikipedia itself is only citing academic studies by the Cambridge History of Africa and actual academics like Professor Sonia R. Zarkevsky of Southampton University and the Oxford-educated anthropologist Professor Cater. I could go on, but those who can be convinced are probably already convinced by now. Everyone else can go home. With all this said, the fact remains that the one time the Bible spoke about the ancient Egyptians and where their civilization originated, it didn't reach for Greece or Assyria or Mesopotamia, all great ancient civilizations in their own rights, yes. Instead, the Bible tells us of a place the Hebrews called Pathros or Pathros, which just so happens to be plonk right in a region of the world the Romans were the first to call Nubia. Now, isn't that a thing? Afrocentrist number one, God himself. What was it Jesus said again? And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Now, just one more thing. If you're Christian and white, or Christian and Arab, and you're listening to this and I've managed to convince you using these Bible passages of the Africanicity of the ancient Egyptians. Ask yourself when you read Bible picture stories to your children whether it's morally right to show them this as opposed to this. The history of the world is a smorgasbord of tasty treats to choose from if you're a Caucasian man or woman. But if what Ezekiel 29 says about the identity of the Egyptian people is true, then is it Afrocentrism or woke for the black man to kindly ask for his history back? It's just as well he's no longer asking kindly. He's taking back what's rightfully his. If you like this video and want to know more about the tricks that have been and are being played to write black people out of history, click here and watch our video on the whitewashing of black historical and cultural figures. Please make sure to share and like this video, and also subscribe and click the notification bell for more great content from us. Remember, this is Trillblack, no doubt, where we rep black right.